Hey everybody, welcome to the webinar. My name is Jeff. Oops. Welcome as everybody's joining in. We're going to give it just a second as people are signing in to join and to say hello. We do have a lot to cover today, so we're going to get started pretty quickly. I wanted to just maybe introduce myself while we're waiting for people to join and um, get the boring stuff out of the way. My name is Jeff Brown. I'm the founder of Intellihost. I'm joined today by Jake Cohen, founder of Step by Step B&B. Also joined by Ian Wyman, the founder of WizRev. I started my career corporate America. I joined Target corporate headquarters right out of college and I've spent the last like 16 years as a data analyst. About 6 years ago, started my own vacation rental company called Loma Homes. If you've heard of us, we were kind of like, I don't know, some people call us the OG themers. If you've ever seen our home in Orlando, we did like the Harry Potter house and the Star Wars house and went pretty viral for that. And in doing that, realized just the need for data and analytics. So we started Intellihost about 3.5 years ago. We currently manage and analyze over 90,000 properties on Intellihost. And what Intellihost does is helps with listing optimization and pricing. We do that because, or I guess we're different in the sense that we actually use your OTA performance data for that. We pull that into your Claude and make sure that you can use that for analysis and performance. On a personal note, I have 5 kids. I know that's crazy, but it's joy. It's pure joy. I love being a dad. I've got 4 little girls and a little boy, so it's been a good time. And if anybody wants to have a off with meat, I smoke a pretty mean brisket. You're welcome to come out to Utah and we'll smoke some meat. So I'm gonna let Ian and Jake introduce themselves in just a minute. But before we do, I just want to go through the agenda. Um, this webinar is intended to be purely hands-on and functional. This is not a hypothetical discussion on where AI is taking us in the future or the latest AI gadget that's coming out. Those are coming out constantly. This is intended for all of those and all of you who feel like AI is going so fast and you want to make sure that you're caught up. Okay, this is catching up those who have heard of the word MCP and agentic and all of these things, but maybe you're not really sure how to use them, or not sure how to apply it to your business. So this is purely applicational, and we're going to, the slides I'm showing you are not going to be the rest of the presentation. In fact, most of this is going to be purely screen share with Jake and with Ian, and we're going to show you how to do this in real time, okay? So I would like to kind of categorize the usage of AI in 3 main levels or categories. Okay, you've got ChatGPT. You can go into ChatGPT and just ask a question. Right now, this is super helpful if you need general knowledge. It helps you with anything that's online, right? But the problem with that is that ChatGPT can't see your business. It can't see your personal data. And so level 2 is a connected ChatGPT or connected AI. Jake is going to show you how to connect your business to AI and show you some really important questions to be asking. And then level 3, Ian's going to help us with that, and he's going to walk you through how to create workflows and automated behavior and actions to actually do stuff in your business and save you time and streamline things for you. Okay, there will be time for questions at the end. In fact, we want to save at least 15 to 20 minutes for just that. So please feel free to put your questions in the comments, and we'll make sure to get to those. So we talked about step 1. It's great at writing. It's great at general knowledge, but it's missing that connected data. And so this is where I'm going to introduce Jake. So Jake, tell us about yourself.
Unmute. Technology is so hard these days. Hey everybody, my name's Jake. Probably some of you know me as the founder of Step by Step B&B. We are a revenue management company, and we specialize in high service revenue management. And what we mean by that is like we are available via email, we are available to have a call with you and make sure that you understand what is going on with your revenue management situation. I also have a course where I teach people how to do revenue management. And I dove headfirst into AI. I want to say it was about 6 months ago. We tried to do some work with AI probably a year and a half ago, and we were trying to automate our systems, and we were saying, man, this is just not working. We would get to like 95% on something, but the AI just wasn't quite powerful enough. It didn't have quite enough reasoning to get to where we wanted to go. And so we dropped it. I hired a professional developer to make a dashboard for us. And after a year, we finally said, this isn't working. And we went back to our own AI development. And that's where most of my teaching has come from, was kind of through working through this stuff myself. I did take a really cool class from a friend of mine who helps people understand AI. So the very first thing I want to start with is there are two main types of connections to other programs to get your data. One of those is an API, and probably most of you have heard that term before. API has been around for a long time, and it's basically a connection between one program which sends data to another place. In most cases, this is a human developer receiving the data in a database of some sort. Um, a newer connection that has come up with the invent of AI is an MCP connection. And an MCP connection is basically an API connection from one program directly into your AI tool, right? So Claude, ChatGPT, whatever it is that you are using. And the really cool thing about it is it allows you to essentially ask your AI tool about any of the data that's available from that other connection. So what I want to do is start by just making sure you guys understand how easy it is to connect an MCP and to get something like this started. So what I'm going to start with is just going to PriceLabs. Probably most of you are using PriceLabs as your pricing tool. I'm going to share my screen real quick here. Make sure you guys can see. Can everybody see a PriceLabs screen up here? Jeff, double check me.
Yeah, I can see.
Okay, awesome. So really, really simple. You guys are probably familiar with what's going on here. You look at this, you see your pricing, all of that. You guys know what's going on. But what you do is you click on your initials up here and you go to settings. Probably a lot of you have not been to settings before on your PriceLabs account, but there's a ton of information on here. There's a lot of settings and things like that that you can connect. But what we're talking about today is this AI connector, this MCP, and you can see it says beta. If you don't have access to this, you can reach out to PriceLabs support using this little question mark here. Start a chat with them and say, hey, I want to try your MCP. Okay. From there, it's super simple. You hit this drop down. I'm not going to show you because it actually exposes my personal MCP information. But essentially, we could do it on the Grok one, for example, because I'm not using that. But you basically are going to plug this information, excuse me, this information in, and you can see there's a step-by-step instructions right here. It'll take you like 2 minutes to connect this. Grab this URL, bring it to Grok, add your client ID, decide whether you want read or write access, and bam, you are now connected directly into PriceLabs and you have access to a huge amount of data. It's incredible. The other connection that I want to go over with you guys is thanks to Jeff, who's hosting this webinar here. And Jeff started IntelliHost, and IntelliHost also has an MCP connection. So you can see I'm connected currently to Airbnb. I'm connected to my dynamic pricing, which is PriceLabs. And then you can see I'm also connected to Claude. So same thing here. If I want to connect this, I'm going to click on Claude Desktop, which is what I'm going to use. Again, very, very simple process. I promise you guys, if you're worried about like, oh my God, it's going to take me 2 days to figure this out, it will take you 30 seconds to 2 minutes to connect each of these. Super, super simple. Okay. From there, what kind of cool stuff can we do? So I already did some questioning in Claude just because I was worried about load times. And I didn't want to like make things make us sit here for a long, long time. But what you do is you basically can have a conversation going back and forth. Okay, so I think the first thing that happened is it said, "Oh, you didn't have the right connection." Jeff hooked me up with the right connection, and we're read only on IntelliHost, which means it's not going to write anything to the program. Okay, but I asked a couple quick questions. Using IntelliHost and PriceLabs MCP, what can you see as opportunities to improve revenue for Alpenglow whole property, right? So I'm now pairing these two incredibly powerful data sources together, right? I have IntelliHost, which is pulling in all of my Airbnb views, conversions, booking data, and it's also pairing that with like listing optimization, a whole bunch of cool other things, right? And then I'm pulling in data from PriceLabs. And PriceLabs has all of my booking data. It has all of my, booking windows and amazing information, right? So um, it starts by pulling that in and it starts to do some analysis. Now, I want to clarify something about using Claude or any other AI tool. Claude is not a trained revenue manager. Okay. Claude is an AI tool. So unless you train Claude to be a revenue manager, it's not necessarily going to give you good revenue management advice. Okay. It's really amazing at pulling in the data. And that's what I would say is the top thing I would recommend for you if you're not super familiar with AI and how to train and do all that stuff. Don't worry about it. You don't have to be great at that. It is incredible at pulling data. So let's do an example. Let's just ask some questions. Let's say, what is the booking window for December through March on Alpenglow whole property? Okay. This is, I'm going to try and ask some fairly simple questions as opposed to super complex ones, like identify all of the best ways to do revenue management, because if I do, it'll think for 5 or 10 minutes. So first thing it's going to do, it's asking me, do I want to give it access essentially to PriceLabs? And you can see the little PriceLabs logo here, and it's pulling that data now from the Alpenglow whole property, which I asked about. Okay. As we're waiting for this, I don't want to just sit here and like make you guys wait. So I'm going to scroll back a little bit and look at some of the other things that I identified for me, because this is a pretty cool information to go through. So, let's look at this. For example, it says Labor Day weekend is blocked. The audit praises you for only blocking 6 of 356 days. Those 6 days are August 16, 17, 18, and Labor Day weekend. It's identifying Labor Day weekend as a high dollar potential weekend. You're losing revenue. What it doesn't know is this is a parent child relationship. Okay. So this is a parent property and I have a child property. What it doesn't know is Labor Day weekend is blocked because the child version of this property is already booked for Labor Day weekend. So one thing that AI doesn't know is it doesn't know the things you haven't told it yet, right? So I had to explain to it, you'll see here, blocks on this unit are because this is a parent-child relationship. This is the 6 bedroom version of a property with a 4 bedroom version, a 2 bedroom version, blah, 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 blah. During slower times, which we are entering, we book the 4 bedroom version more than the 6 bedroom version. Okay, so now I've taught it something about revenue management, right? It now knows there can be a parent-child relationship. So what I would encourage you to do is pull in that data, and then if there's anything that doesn't make sense, either ask questions or explain because you know the answer, right? So now it can start to do better analysis, right? Okay, these aren't owner blocks, they're child bookings. There's not $3,000 sitting behind the Labor Day block. It's already booked on another unit. So at that time, I could have said, now look at this other unit called Alpenglow 2642 and pull that data in so that you can see how much revenue we generated for that weekend. I didn't do that as part of this conversation. Um, okay, so let's go back down here and see if we got an answer. Okay, let's see here. What is the booking window? Short answer, the observed median is 41 days, but that number is unreliable, and one clean data point says 252. So interesting thing here is it's pulling in my particular data, right? Well, I launched this property a little late last year, later than I would have liked. So this isn't necessarily a market data point, it's for my property. So one of the things that I would like to know is what about the market? What is the market for it? So this one is one that came in for this year. Okay. So this is a data point for this year because the calendar was all the way open. So now what I can say is, what about the market booking window for this 6-bedroom property? Okay, so now I'm pulling another data point to help me figure out the best potential context for this. Okay, so that's going to take another couple of minutes. While we're waiting on that, I want to give you guys a quick kind of like sneak peek at what is the potential of where is this AI stuff going, right? So this is connected. Connected means we are able to pull the data from our data sources. And the really cool thing about connected is now you have data sources, multiple data sources that you are putting together. And you can use that data together to make better decisions. I still highly recommend a true revenue management strategy as opposed to just saying, AI, do my revenue management for me. I think that will be a recipe for disaster because, like I said, you haven't trained Claude to understand what is this? You know, how do I do this the right way? Okay, so this is really cool. I just got my new market booking window for Steamboat. So it's pulling in different market average booking windows for different periods of time. And this is where a true revenue management strategy becomes really incredible, right? Because we could go to PriceLabs and we could set up seasons for each of these time frames, and we could have a different discount strategy, a different premium strategy, a different minimum stay strategy for each of these time frames because the booking window is different. That's where you're going to get ahead in this case, is by doing your revenue management strategy and using your AI tool to pull all the data you need to do an incredible job. Okay, I'm going to pivot away from the actual connection to Claude here. And what I want to show you is like a brief glimpse at something that we're working on internally. And we have both an internal dashboard. So this is in beta for us right now. So it's not all of our clients. You can see we have 134 properties currently connected to this. You can see the data is not updated. It's as of July 31st. So we're still working on pulling all of the data exactly correctly. If you if you saw the back end of this, all of the changes that we are having to make because we find problems, right? The data we're pulling from PriceLabs is a little different than the data we're pulling from Intellihost, so we have to adjust things. But the really cool thing about this is we can see our whole portfolio. we can see a quick glance at what's going on. If I want to dive deeper into a particular property, I can dive into that portfolio. We have a few different categories here. So if I want to look at a particular property, I can see all of the data for that property right here. I can see by month, when are my high demand, low demand, mid demands? How are we doing year over year? What's our occupancy? All of these things. We have our notes filled in here. So we can basically say like what's going on in our revenue management strategy. Um, and then we have some other really cool things here, like alerts, for example. These are our recent bookings. So it keeps us on track of what's going on. Our cancellations, we are realizing, is a huge place where we're losing potential revenue. So there are 13 confirmed cancellations with a total value of $49,000. Okay. Is that an important metric for us to figure out how do we cut down cancellations, or how do we make sure we rebook the cancellations properly? You can see we've rebooked 9 of them so far at 22,000. However, that's a difference of $25,000 that we're losing. Okay. That's really, really important data. So all of this is this is our internal side. We've also built a really cool external side of this. We call it the client view. And our clients can now view all of this data in real time, where they can see their top properties. What is their top properties? How are they doing this year versus last year final? Last year to date would be the middle one, last year final. What's our RevPAR this year versus last year? So there's so much potential with this, and we're just scratching the surface with it. I can't wait to see where we are 6 months from now. I feel like we're going to have, all the listing optimization tools built in. Our onboarding will be streamlined. It'll just be a much better experience for everyone. And the human being can concentrate on the strategy while the AI tool does all the hard number work behind the scenes. So super stoked on where we're going. Thank you, Jeff, for having me on. Was a pleasure to get to chat with all of you. If any of you ever want to reach out, want to know more about our business, please come check us out, stepbystepbnb.com. We're happy to do a free revenue management consultation with you, give you whatever information you need. Or if you're interested in learning revenue management, please join my revenue management mastermind. And I'm going to hand it over to Ian to show you the third level of AI.
Thank you, Jake. That was a great presentation, and this is just so exciting, and I'm happy to be here. Hey everyone, my name's Ian Wyman. I am the owner of Roomly Management and also the founder of WizRev. Roomly Management operates a portfolio of vacation rentals in Reno and Lake Tahoe. We have close to 20 properties in that area, and I've been operating since 2021 in Reno. And over the course of the last 2 years, similar to Jake, I have been very interested in how AI is, one, impacting the world, but in particular, impacting the vacation rental industry. And I've done everything that I can to stay ahead of the curve and learn about AI solutions so that I could implement that to my own portfolio. And also just, I'm fascinated by the stuff, and I think it's really cool. So I will go ahead and share my screen. I want to show you guys a couple of things that I have set up with my own portfolio currently, and then I'll talk about how I'm thinking about potentially doing this for clients of my own in the future. So let me go and get the screen share going. There we go. Okay. Is that coming through okay? Should be my Claude instance here. Perfect.
We can see it.
All right. So I might kind of repeat a couple of things that Jake said, but hopefully there's a lot of value and additional things here that you can take away. So, I just like Jake, I did a prompt earlier today just to save a little bit of time because it takes a bit to load. Let me move my sorry, my Zoom window's in the way there. So basically what I said is look at my listings for the next 30 days, find every unbooked night with less than a 10% chance of booking. For each night, show me the current price, the recommended price, and what you would change. Put it in a table. Don't change anything yet. And before I continue, I just wanted to mention that my Claude is one connected via MCP to both PriceLabs and Intellihost for my portfolio. It's also connected to Google Drive, and I operate my entire business in Google Drive. So essentially, this Claude instance kind of has oversight to not only my RevOps with PriceLabs and IntelliHost, but also my just operations in general. Um, so I'm not going to go through all of this, but really quick, I mean, it's showing me this one property 11 days out. There's a less than a 10% chance that this is going to get booked. So this is money that is potentially being left on the table, right? And I mean, throughout my entire career in vacation rentals, this has been something that I've struggled with personally. Like I've really tried to do everything that I can to learn revenue management and like how can I ensure that my listings are priced in such a way where I'm capturing every dollar. And it's really tough to do. And I mean, there's people like Jake who spent their entire life and career learning this stuff. Um, but there's a million different strategies, a ton of data, and it's really hard to say like, okay, I'm 100% certain that I'm like pricing everything correctly to capture all the data, right? And I've just like Jake, taken courses, gone to conferences, tried to just ingest as much knowledge as I can. And now with the rise of AI and all these connections, what we're able to do is like compress all that knowledge that I have and that the industry has and train AI to know this stuff and then take it one level further because it can pull in so much data and I can't do that as a person, right? So now you have this trained AI agent that also can touch a million data points that I can't and just run revenue management on my behalf. So that's what I'm trying to build for my portfolio and what I'm trying to build for potential future clients as well. So I have a couple other prompts prepared. So this is the output for this. Let me just pull up this prompt. So my second prompt here is run my daily pricing wizard. This is for the live webinar. Let's make it fast as possible. I don't know if that helps, but let's see. So basically, this is the prompt, and I'm just going to paste that in here. Obviously, you could type it. And then I have what's called a skill document prepared. So this is essentially an overview of like just what it is, one skill that that Claude can have. And I call it the daily pricing wizard. Basically what it does, it finds at-risk unbooked nights, recommends prices, and proposes fixes for approval. It's used when I ask it to run the daily pricing wizard, the morning pricing sweep, or to check for at-risk nights. So there's a full document here. I was actually planning to share this with everyone who joined the webinar. We can figure that out later, but I'm happy to share this document. So I'm going to go ahead and upload this here. And sorry, let me move my Zoom window again. And it's on Medium. Hopefully this doesn't take too long. I tested it last night. It's pretty fast. So now we're teaching Claude a skill. And once once it has ingested said skill, I'll show you where it goes. And then the next step after this is to automate this skill on a daily basis. So basically, I don't want to have to come in and tell you to do this every morning. Like just do it automatically, right? And actually, you can see that that's already here because I have this set up, and I'll go into it in a bit once this loads. But you can see it's scheduled here, daily pricing wizard. All right, data's already fresh. Verdict. So great. So it did what I said. it's giving me all this information, right? Yeah, let's get all the way to the bottom here. Technology is being my friend this morning, which is nice. So the cool thing here is, you know, it's still giving me the opportunity to reject or accept what it's doing, right? So it says, say apply all. So I could say, don't do anything, or I could say do everything, or I could choose certain things, certain changes here, as far as like, either cutting prices, increasing prices that I want it to do. Um, I would probably just accept everything, honestly, but it's important to go through this with like be diligent, especially at first when you're setting these things up, because like Jake had mentioned, you don't want to just let an untrained AI loose on live prices because it's just gonna like it's not gonna work in your favor. You need to train it and get it to a point where it understands not only like revenue management and how that works overall, but your particular portfolio. So then if we go into customize here and skills, you can see now that there's a skill here for daily pricing wizard. And I'll just open this up and it's essentially just, what I had just pasted in there. And I know I'm going a little bit fast here. Obviously, this is all recorded and will be sent after. But pretty straightforward, I think. Um,
Hey, Ian, real quick.
yeah, sure.
Some helpful feedback from Yash here. He commented and said, now that you've got that skill built, which I think this is a really good call out, you can actually just do a backslash and then start typing that skill. It'll autofill for you, and now Claude knows what file to reference for the skill. So once
Yeah.
you've another way you can do this is if you explain what you want it to do and say build a skill for this, it will do it for you so you don't have to like manually type stuff in. It'll create its own skill for you and save it for you too. So you can just reference the skill in a chat, say, hey, use the XYZ skill for this, and it will do that. So just some, and so thanks Yash for the feedback there.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a great point, and it just makes it super convenient to implement the skill for sure. Um, okay, so then from there, let me get my final prompt up. Oh, sorry, that's the wrong file. So now I want to schedule a task. So every morning at 7:15 a.m., run my wizard and email me the results. If any, blah blah blah. So here's that. So I'm gonna go ahead and just send this. But we don't even really need to wait for this to load because what this will do and has done is just schedule this to run. Oh, it's already done here. Um, it's a scheduled task that just runs every morning, regardless of whether I open up my computer and log into Claude or whatever. And you can see that that's a scheduled task here. So from there, like basically what my own personal revenue management looks like now is I just receive an email and or look at the chat in Claude, and I can make decisions and give feedback directly in that email or within Claude. And like I'm not even really looking at Price Labs. I used to be in Price Labs twice a day, like just always like checking it and looking at things. Now I'm much further removed from that, and that's like the vision that I'm trying to get towards. So let me open up a screenshot of the email I received this morning. I mean, this came in, at 7:15 when I was kind of prepping and making coffee and everything. But essentially it's giving me a read on like where my occupancy sits compared to last year across my entire portfolio, what money came in, so what booked in the last 24 hours. Here, let me make this a
Ian,
little
can
bit.
you zoom in a little bit?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Sorry.
Awesome.
Here we go. There we go. Exactly what I was thinking. Cancellations, anything notable, what the wizard actually did, so actions that it took. And then here we have pending changes that it's going to make unless I veto those changes. So I've set it up to where this one is saying we're trying to fill in this last minute. We're going to cut the price from 326 to 295. This will execute tomorrow unless vetoed. So if I just click this link, it'll cancel that from happening. So if I see any red flags in here, or if for whatever reason there's something that I don't want it to do, I can just come in here and click the links. But otherwise, if I do nothing, it'll just go ahead and execute these pending actions, and I'm good to go from there. So the part that matters more than the demo is kind of like what I won't let it do. So it never prices below my floor or my minimum prices. That's one thing, obviously, just to protect owners I work with, myself, prevent parties, things like that. It never touches live prices without my approval, which I already have set up, like putting that permission in writing with limits. And every change it proposes or makes lands on a ledger that I can read, and in the context of doing this for clients, that clients can read. So the magic here isn't that it's autonomous. The magic is that it's accountable and trained. Um, so this is what I'm doing for my portfolio, and I'm also launching WizRev. And essentially, WizRev is an AI revenue management service for short-term rental portfolios. And really, what we're doing is setting this up for clients and helping them track kind of the before and after. So you can check us out, send us a message on wizrev.com. Also, I'm on Instagram at Airbnb Ian. So feel free to get in touch there. I'm always, happy to chat and touch and help. And I'm super fired up and excited about this stuff. And I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. And yeah, I mean, Jeff, if there's nothing else, I
Yeah.
think I'll hand it back to you.
I love it. I love it. Thank you for that. And we had a quick question here from Yash. He says, where did you set those guardrails? Which step? I assume, Yash, you're referring to kind of the minimum and maximum guardrails and things like that. So maybe help us understand how you put safety rails around this so it doesn't go hog wild.
Totally. So I think like for someone setting this up for themselves, it would be important to like the way I've done it before is like I already have all that set in PriceLabs, right? So like I have my mins and everything. And then I personally also had a separate spreadsheet with all of that set in. So that all got plugged in to Claude when I set this up. So if I were setting this up again, or like if I had to advise someone to do it, they could probably you know, put that all into a document, and then that would go into the skill for like the daily pricing wizard. Um, I I've taken it one step further as well, where I'm using a third party connector. Like I have like N8N and Pipedream as well, and there's custom code written into there that's like holding all the mins and max and stuff, but like that's not entirely necessary. So
Yeah,
yeah.
and I would just add to that. There's actually probably three different places you can add those guardrails. So
Yeah.
Ian mentioned Price Labs. So you can put your minimum max in Price Labs so it never pushes above or below that. You can do it in IntelliHost. You can do it actually in Claude itself. So in the skill or actually in your chats or routines that you create. You could put them in all those places. I would recommend just keeping them in one so that if you edit them later, you're not trying to figure out or trying to remove it from all three layers. But if you're really concerned and you only have one property, then you could technically put those blocks in in multiple layers. But I recommend against it. So
Yeah.
um, awesome. So real quick recap. We talked about the three levels. Level one is you're using ChatGPT just generally. Level two is a connected AI, like Jake showed us, and then level three, which is more of the agentic. And when we say agentic, we're referring to what Ian showed us, and actually doing things for you, clicking, approval buttons and having it just work. And that's really what I'd say that the fundamentals. of what AI is doing for people today. And if you want to feel caught up, you can go in and actually start building some of those things. You can start getting really clever, really fancy with some of the agentic stuff. Wheelhouse just did a hackathon a week or two ago that Intellihost won an award for, and we went in and just built things off of their API and off of their MCP, and it was literally vibe coded. When I say vibe code, you may have heard that term before. Vibe code means you're literally asking Claude to build things for you, and you don't actually ever touch the code. And so we were able to build some things vibe coded for Intellihost that are actually live today. And you can do the same thing. And so that's something that really is an eye opener for people, is that you can build whatever you want now, and you don't need to understand code. You can use tools like Intellihost, Wheelhouse, PriceLabs, and all of them now have MCPs, and it's up to you to build what you want. The world of SaaS has changed, and SaaS is now whatever you want it to be. And it's really, companies like us, like Intellihost, we're more of a data platform for you, so that you can build what you want with the data that we have. So with that, I want to make sure we open up the rest for question and answer. Here's our contact information. I'll leave this up on the screen so that if you want to reach out to Ian for help with setting up your AI and setting up your revenue management AI skills and tools, he can help you with that. Jake is one of the most talented revenue managers I know, and if you need help, an expert in the field to help you manage your revenue, he's there, and I'm here to smoke a brisket if you need some help with that. So, well, with that, go ahead and ask your questions, and we'll get to them. We've got one from Ron here. He says, what are we as an industry doing to clean up the noise in the data? For years now, we see the noise in both PriceLabs and AirDNA. So there's a real danger that the AI models do not understand our blind spots that takes years to understand. This is a fantastic question. I'm curious, Jake or Ian, if either of you have an opinion on that.
Yeah, it's something I'm knee deep in at the moment. The reason we are still in beta with our revenue management tools with AI is essentially there are so many fringe use cases that break the system because of data inconsistency that we are trying to correct all of those before we launch live with any of these AI tools, because we're worried that if we let any of them go by before we fix them, we'll end up in a situation where we're now pricing thousands of units, and the blowback will be so much worse than if we fix the stuff when we're only pricing 100 units using our tools. Or look, we're not actually pushing any pricing with our AI tools. All of it right now is basically an approve or deny. So we're in that phase of trying to fix all of those data problems that have been there for years and years and years. And it's really difficult, really, really difficult. And the only thing I can say is with the help of AI, it's getting a lot better, in the sense that instead of me having to comb through a spreadsheet of 10,000 data points myself with my human eyes, as soon as we identify a problem, I can now say, okay, now extrapolate that across our whole portfolio, right? Fix that issue across our whole portfolio. So we're getting closer and closer. I would say we're like 95% of the way there with fixing those issues, and we're down to pretty small things at this point. But for example, yesterday I was working through some of our data, and cancellations were one of the things that came up, and the tool didn't know, am I supposed to count cancellation revenue? It's revenue that came in. Am I supposed to count that as like rental revenue? Because technically rental revenue is for days booked. It's not for cancellation. So it was running into this problem where it was saying this is technically revenue, but we're counting it in total revenue. We're not counting it in rental revenue. The way I think about it, it is rental revenue because someone did rent those nights, they canceled, we still got the money. So technically, in my opinion, it is rental revenue, but AI didn't know how to account for it. So, that was another one that we discovered that we had to have an exception for, as opposed to just something simple like count all rental revenue. It's not that simple. There's other things that are on the fringe that you have to account for.
Yeah, and I would add to that as well. And I'm going to kind of tie this all in because Yash just asked a question, which is AI does not always is not always 100% correct on numbers and computation. He says currently accuracy is somewhere near 82%. I've not heard that stat, but we'll take it. In that case, how do we handle hallucination, especially when we use it for revenue management and so on? So I'm going to kind of tie that question in with the original one, which is AI is not yet good enough for you to leave the driver's seat. And so I think that what and Ian was a good example of what he built, which is I want you to do the work, but I need to be the ultimate decider of what happens. And I highly recommend that you not leave the driver's seat for anything that could cause major problems for your business. It is really fast at analysis. It's really fast at picking out these things, and so leverage it for the speed. Don't leverage it for the decision itself because you're the only one that knows your business um, as well as you do. And so the other thing I would say is to Ron's point, the data, or I should say the AI is only as good as the data behind it. So data is still king in that regard. AI is providing an intelligence layer on top of that, but it still needs the training, like Jake was saying, that will make it a lot better. It needs guardrails, like Ian was putting. So make sure that you, one, spend the time to train it, and two, spend the time to put the guardrails around it, and three, that you are in the seat of the decision maker, so that this horse does not run straight off a cliff. That's actually the analogy we gave when we did our presentation at Hackathon. We called it Project Reigns, is because AI is like a horse. It's fast, it's powerful, but it can run you right off a cliff if you don't give it enough context. So um,
I think just one more quick point on that. Like, even
yeah,
if AI is only, 82% correct, I can't imagine that because I'm doing thousands of calculations at a time and they seem to be very accurate. We do full data analysis on everything that we put through our pricing engine, and like 99.9% it is calculating correctly as far as I can tell. The only issues with it is if there is an inconsistency in the data, then there can become a problem, right? So say I feed it um, two numbers for the same date for pricing. That's something that will cause a problem, right? Because it's either, do I average these? Do I, do some sort of different analysis with this? Do I pick one? Do I pick the other? Then you have problems. But as far as I can tell, the actual math computation is very solid. But the way to get around that is you have to have multiple ways that everything is computed. That way, if one screws up, there's a backup that's saying these numbers do not match. And because of that, something went wrong and we have to go back a step, right? Fix the numbers that are going in to get everything to compute correctly. So I would highly encourage anything that you're doing, especially with pricing or anything like that. Make sure that you're computing everything at least two different ways. That way, there's always like that backup. If they don't match, those numbers don't match, then it's not a positive correlation. Then you don't move forward to the next step.
Yeah, just to touch on that, and like I would echo everything that you guys have said, like so on point. But for my wizard agent that I've set up, I have it taking a log of every single change that it makes directly into a Google Sheet, which is connected as well, so that it's all logged and tracked. Like I'm the metaphor that or analogy that I'm using is like the trunk of a tree with a bunch of branches. So like if there's a branch that's making a decision or a leaf on that branch, like I want it to be able to access the full trunk of knowledge um, when it makes that decision. and building the trunk, it has taken a lot of like diligence and time, right? Where it's like I'll run a prompt and it starts and it gives me a response, and I'm like, we covered this like 3 days ago. What are you talking about? Like access the trunk, like tell, you know. And so yeah, like I really like the horse analogy as well. Like you have to steer it. It's like you have this huge like amount of potential energy, right? And like harnessing that takes a human and a lot of diligence and time to like to review that. So
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, and we got a few more questions here, so I'm gonna ask you guys to answer this one. I'll answer Ron's question, but one question is a lot of AI talk is around the pricing of the unit. Do y'all see it going further and recommending changes to the fees and auxiliary revenue sources we add on to the short-term rentals? That one's tricky because again, AI is only as good as the data you have, and I can tell you that now the Airbnb especially is combining all of the fees into a single output. A lot of those a lot of those fees are no longer visible. So we can't really see what people are charging for different things. And the only way to get that is from source data. Like if you connected your IntelliHost data, we could see some of that coming in from the PMS. But aggregating that into a competitive level would be difficult. So I would say that it's not going to be readily available now just because the data's not there. So to answer that one, and then for Ron's question, demand question here, he says, how do you distinguish true market demand from demand captured by my individual listing? If my impressions slash clicks drop because Airbnb suppresses me after a bad review, how do you know demand is still strong and avoid falsely lowering price? Okay, great question. So IntelliHost is the only platform I know of that actually collects your click and search traffic data for your specific property, and it does that for individual days on your calendar. So there's market demand, which is what is your competition doing, and you can get that from PriceLabs, Wheelhouse, or anybody. And then what we do is we take that market demand and we actually layer in your click and impression traffic. And so what I will say though is if your click and search impressions drop, that's an indication that there is, I mean, I don't want to sugarcoat it. Like you're probably going to have to drop price from a bad review if your impressions drop. The likelihood of you booking is less if you're getting less clicks and less impressions. So you could keep prices high, but your conversion rate and your search impressions will drop if you get too many bad reviews. But what I'll say is we do separate those two demand factors. There's market demand, which is really supply, and your individual click and impression traffic. We layer in both of those for our pricing suggestions to calculate your likelihood of booking, and we use that for your pricing. So that's IntelliHost adds a layer of pricing on top of that with that data in context. So hope that helps, Ron. And then finally, Yash says backup methodology sounds good. Multi-agent system. Ian, do you use multi-agent system, or Jake? When we talk about multi-agent system, what do you mean by that, and how can we provide some clarity there?
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about that. The way we built our system is not multi-agent by definition, but the way we built our system is there are three of us building the system. We each have our own connections to Claude, to ChatGPT. I use a two-agent system where I build with Codex, but every prompt that goes into Codex runs through Claude first. So I'm basically getting the feedback of one agent to build the product for, from the other agent. But what I'm talking about, I guess, is more of a checks and balances type of a situation. It's not necessarily two agents running. It's you have multiple processes running the same calculation, so that one's computing. I'm trying to think of a good example of how to put this into practice. But for example, like you're trying to compute what is your market demand versus, or what is your demand versus the market demand, right? And it's just doing a fraction essentially. We might calculate that 2 or 3 different times during our process. And if those numbers don't match up, then we know there's a problem in the computation. The way we're doing this is all essentially hard coded. There's a process behind the scenes that is hard coded on this is what we are trying to compute. And then there's an agentic on top of that that makes a recommendation based on all of those final numbers. So it's not necessarily multi-agent, but we do have like a dashboard which computes everything separately, and we have a pricing engine which computes everything separately. If those two don't match, then there's a problem in the database where the numbers are not correct, and that's something we correct at the database side before they go to the agents to be computed. I hope that makes sense.
Awesome. Yeah. Um, Totally agree, and I love your check and balance system. I think that's intuitive. Um, I don't see any other questions here. We have a couple of minutes, so if you guys have another question, feel free to ask it. But otherwise, we're here for you. If you have questions, this is our contact information on the screen. You can reach out to me personally from my email. You can reach out to Jake. You can reach out to Ian as well. But we're here to give you the support you need and provide any education that we can. Um, Last thing is, we would love to do these more if they're helpful. Just reach out to us and let us know if you felt like this was helpful and if you'd like to see more of these webinars. We can go deeper into subtopics of AI and how we use it for revenue management. Um, and and we'll do more if you like them. So give us feedback and we'll go from there. Ian, Jake, anything before we close out?
I was just going to kick back to what people were saying about doing calculations for other pieces of the puzzle besides just price. It's been something that's very, very top of mind for me, and I actually built basically a discount and markup tracker recently because I was feeling like we were having so much trouble. We manage for about 170 total clients, so you can imagine trying to be on top of, did someone just add another discount? Compared to where we were yesterday, and all of a sudden they just added a custom discount or something onto their Airbnb listing. Well, obviously that's going to affect the final price of what we get for our revenue. So I am actively working on some of those additional things. But I think, like Jeff said, it's very difficult to do it at market level. What I'm finding though is we don't necessarily need market level data to be able to know what's going to work or what's not going to work. I think even at the scale I'm at, 500-600 units that we manage, you start to see patterns very quickly of where problems arise, or where you're seeing success. So while it would just be directionally accurate, as opposed to like, I know for a fact that in my market, this is going to work, I think it's still really good data. So I think it's worth starting to compute that as much as you can with your own data. And it's going to be essentially a process of you saying, I just added a 10% last minute discount to my Airbnb listing. So add that on top of my pricing that I'm pulling through the MCP from PriceLabs. And that's the data that you need to essentially know the true price of that listing that day.
Yeah,
Yeah,
awesome.
I wanted just to kind of piggyback on what Jake said, and then I want to answer Ron's question, if that's okay, Jeff.
Yeah, perfect.
So like you were explaining, Jeff, or sorry, Jake, when I was first getting all this set up, I realized that there's like so many different levers that can be pulled and so many layers of software that are controlling my pricing, right? Because I have HostAway as my PMS, I have PriceLabs as my pricing engine, and then I have Airbnb itself, and then also VRBO, Booking.com, other OTAs, if you have a direct booking site, right? Discount codes. So it's like, I could have a 10% promo going on, like on my Airbnb calendar. I could have a weekly or a monthly discount set up on Airbnb. I could have a last minute discount or a far out, like all those discounts in Airbnb. Cleaning fees, pet fees, extra guest fees, right? And then you also have host away, and then like, so there's like a million different things, and I'm like, okay, like, geez, like, I can't go below this price, right? So like, I had to kind of like reverse engineer, like, okay, I want to make sure that everything, all the different aspects that could affect the price, ultimately, when they all come together, it will never go below this price. So it took a lot of time and like training to get that, and that kind of goes back to like the trunk mode that I was referring to earlier. But now it's really cool because it's like I can just look at that and say, hey, like I see that this listing is performing maybe a little bit, poorly than I might expect, right? Should we adjust the cleaning fee? And then like it kind of knows where those settings need to be changed, right? So it's not like a guessing game of me having to manually jump between five different systems and change it, and then there's always like something that's missed. And then to answer Ron's question, I love that question because it's like I'm looking at everything. Like I want to, and that's why I kind of got going with like the wizard and the orb metaphor because like I'm thinking of this as like an all-knowing wizard that can see far into the future. It can see the entire past. It can look at all of the data from everything, right? And then make decisions based on all of that. So it's short and long strategy, 100%. So.
Awesome. Well, great guys. We've hit our time limit, but thank you so much for joining us. And we'll good luck on your AI efforts.
Thanks, guys. Bye.